Original, 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 original Batman. Oh.
It's VQs.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Ashley Empowers. I'm Ashley, and I am so excited to be doing a virtual Dating with Purpose interview. So, Dating with Purpose is a series that I created to showcase and highlight couples that are keeping God first in their relationships to inspire you that healthy, thriving marriages do exist. Today, I'm really excited to be interviewing y'all. I'm trying to combine you guys' names. Chrystal and Josh Bernard. Welcome, you guys. I'm so happy that you're here. So can you just start off by telling viewers how long you guys have been married and just a little bit of background?
Yeah, so we have been married for 8 years. We currently have 3 children, one on the way in a couple of months. We're also pastors of Believers Connection Church. I have an accounting practice as well. We've both been entrepreneurs for at least about 5 years now. And that creates an interesting dynamic because we work together pretty much every day. He's my pastor and my husband. And amen. Yes. And so that creates a very dynamic relationship. And yeah, we met at the Potter's House Brick House years ago, and it's a really interesting story. So we're excited.
Yes. So before meeting each other, well, first, let me ask you guys this. Did both of you guys grow up in church? I know you met at church, but did you guys both grow up in church?
I grew up in church. I don't think you didn't grow up.
No, my family, we didn't go to church. We sometimes went on Easter Sunday, but only if if we had like a barbecue or a cookout scheduled, we weren't going. So no, I met God really, I've always known of Christ, but I didn't really have that intimate relationship until college. Like it was my last semester of grad school when I really gave my life to Christ. So no, we didn't really grow up in church versus, you very traditional.
Yes, she was an Easter Sunday hopper, but we grew up in Pentecostal church. And
okay.
So that was an interesting dynamic also.
So, Josh, what did your dating life look like prior to meeting Chrystal? Like, you're a single man.
Well, I was in a relationship. About a 6-year relationship within high school, and it was really idealistic. It was really based on looks and emotional feelings, and I actually found a picture of this girl when I was in high school, and I was like, this girl is beautiful. So I started looking her up, finding the high school that she was at, and I finally found out where she was and got a number from somebody and called her, and we met up and we started dating from that day on.
For 6 years.
6 years, on and off.
So was it a purposeful relationship? Like before meeting Chrystal, were you dating with purpose?
No, I was not dating in purpose. I was totally worldly, if you want to use that context.
Okay.
I didn't have no knowledge of, really leading and guiding nobody, really directing nobody, really understanding the dynamics and the complexities of relationships. So when I met this girl, we start dating, start talking, high school lovey-dovey stuff.
Gotcha.
But on and off. And as a young boy, I say young, but high schooler, I think you're still learning life. You're still learning what manhood is about. And so through all the partying, through all the, the relational issues that you go through, we just always on and off.
Okay.
But,
so Chrystal, what about you and your past relationships leading up to meeting Josh? Were they purpose driven?
Oh, no, absolutely not. So remember, I had no purpose was not in my vocabulary. So in college and in high school, I mean, I was just having fun, you know. And here's the thing is what they say, oh, just have fun in high school or college. So literally that's what I did. And so, I mean, from sexual promiscuity, I mean, I was literally just out there. I thought I was living my best life. You know, just relationship to relationship, no purpose, you know, and even to the point where I was feeling hurt, but I kind of masqueraded around as if, well, I'm just having fun. But on the inside, you know, I really felt like, okay, why really don't I have that genuine relationship? But I mean, at the end of the day, what was I putting out? You know, I was just kind of flaunting my looks and my shape and things like that. And so that's what was selling, and that is what I was getting in return.
Yeah.
So my relationships, you know, knowing Christ were very superficial, very just based off of how do you look, how do we look, oh, do we vibe, not really looking at anything else. And so, you know, once I really made that decision to follow Christ, you know, it took some time to get out. I still was going back to this really bad relationship, even though God was pulling me. And eventually I saw like, okay, God, you really have more for me. And so the list of he has to, you know, be cute, job, this, that. And while those things are, you know, important, my main focus really became, okay, I really want somebody that really loves God. You know, as I started to mature in Christ, my that checklist did too. And so no longer was I just looking for the next hottest thing or fling, but I was like, you know what? I think I started to view more past the looks and more into like, I need somebody that's going to lead me, who's going to be a great husband. You know, all those things started to come into play versus just how they look and what they can do for me and what I can do for them.
Right. So to paint the picture, this was in your early 20s.
Yes.
And you were building your relationship with God. And so your view of how relationships should go was changing as you were building your relationship with the Lord.
Right. So even though I accepted Christ, so this is Western grad school. So this is like fall of 2019. Fall of 2009. It wasn't immediate. You know, I had to go through that process of God changing my desires and really saying, no, daughter, look for this, not this. And so first it really started with me. Like I really had to have a heart change first. Like my relationship with God became the center, and that took some shedding. Like it didn't just happen day one, but the Lord really, he mentored me and taught me, okay, daughter, this is who you are first. And once I really grasped that knowledge of, you know what, like I am valuable, I am worth something more, then I could go into a relationship with a new perspective. But honestly, it really had to start with that pruning process with me first, which took about a year.
Yeah.
It took a year for me to see who I was, who God created me to be. And that's really what led me to stop being promiscuous, you know, and stop just giving myself over, because I knew that, you know, I do have worth and I do have something very special that one day I can give to my husband.
Yeah. And so, Josh, how did you and Chrystal meet, and how did you know she was the one?
Well, we met at the Cheesecake Factory at a brick house young adult ministry after party deal.
And it wasn't really an after party. It was just after Bible study. We all go to eat.
Okay.
Right.
Cheesecake Factory.
And so I was really actually meeting another
girl.
Another girl. Another girl.
He wasn't coming to me because I didn't know.
But it wasn't like that. It was a friend. But come to find out, this friend was like, I guess, pumping me up and say, hey, this guy's about to come in. So anyway, I just went to just have fun, to visit. And as I got there.
Let me interject. So there was this one seat. So there's a big table. There's probably about 15 of us at the table. Mm-hmm. And the one empty seat at the table is between, you know, myself and the girl that, you know, was highly anticipating this man coming. And she's just bugging him up at the table and saying, oh, look at this guy. He's coming. So now I'm kind of excited. I'm like, well, let me see who's about to walk in the door. And here comes Josh come in. And okay.
So I come in and I was looking good. Yeah. I had it going on. And so anyway, she was sitting to the right of me, and I saw her smile. I was like, oh wow, somebody nice at the table. Because I wasn't dating a girl that I guess was anticipating me to come in. But when I got there, the one that was anticipating me to come in, she was doing a little more, relationship activity. And I wasn't, I wasn't cognizant of that's what she was, we were doing.
Yeah,
But
we're picking up on the cues.
correct. I wasn't picking up on the cues. But when I saw her, I was like, oh, she's nice. She's nice. Look, she met my checklist. Nice smile, nice, nice hair, nice this, nice, beautiful looking. Yeah. So.
Okay, well let's pause right there. So at this point, you guys are both in your early 20s. Chrystal newly building her relationship with Christ, living for Christ. And I think that's something that's important, because a lot of people that watch this show, they are single, and they ask questions on whether or not, when they're seeking to get married, should they be attracted to that person. So Josh, you're saying right off the bat, you saw her, you had kind of in your mind maybe a type, or you saw her, thought she was attractive. Chrystal, right. They were hyping Josh up at the Cheesecake Factory. When he walked in, you were clearly, attracted to him. So do you guys think it is important that you're attracted to your person, or do you think that God will send you someone that you're not attracted to and you're just gonna have to grow in love?
No, I think God would absolutely send you someone that you're attracted to. I think it's very important you have to look at this person, wake up to them every single day.
They better look good to you. And here's the thing is that, the priority is, we have to be equally yoked. That's really what the Bible, the principle behind any type of relationship, whether that's a romantic relationship, business, whatever, is that you have to be yoked for. So for as believers, that means we have to love Jesus, nobody else. And so really that's the principle. Yeah. Once that's checked, now you go into your preferences, and that's going to be different for everybody. If someone is, a certain height, a certain weight, a certain look, a certain, skin color, those are all very important after the principle is met. And so a lot of people, especially after they're over a certain age, they just figure, let me just take the best looking thing that walks by, even if I don't like it, just because my time is ticking, I'm ready to have kids, and all these other factors start, to really weigh their decision. But at the end of the day, like, God cares about our preferences. Like, he cares about what we like, our personality, and you have to like how this person, physically looks, but you also have to like being with them, and I think that's one thing that.
And I think that's what changed it for me. Before I met her, this relationship I was in prior, like 6 years on and off, I was tired of just running after somebody beautiful or somebody pretty, and we couldn't agree. We just was all over the place relationally. Yeah. But from the outside, like I said, we look good. And so I was just tired of it. And once I gave my life to Christ, prior to meeting her about a year, like really, really gave myself to God, did it for real. Once I met her, I was pretty much done with the looks. I actually did start out like that when I got to church. I was like, oh, I didn't know women come to church. All right, we can do this. I'm like, oh man, I shouldn't have been in the club. I should have been coming to church. So with that, I started off wrong. I'm gonna be honest. I started off wrong, and God had to fix me again. Son, see, you keep messing it up. Stay focused on me, and through that, you'll be able to filter what I'm calling you to, in your choices.
Yeah. But, so after meeting, go ahead.
No. So and so I was going to say that's what I it wasn't just her looks. I had to sit down with her because I was sold in Christ. I was like, if they can't roll with me doing what I'm called to do, I can't take that step forward.
Yeah. And I can add, right after that time period when we met at the Cheesecake Factory, we had our first date about maybe a couple weeks after that. And we went to Dave & Buster's for the first time. And we literally told each other the good, the bad, and the ugly. We were so transparent with each other. And I just remember thinking, I can trust him. Like, I can trust him, and he's not going to judge me. He's not going to think, oh, who's this girl who just came over to the Lord? And I think that's really attracted us to each other. And the more we talked on the phone, I remember one day I called him. I said, hey, what are you doing? And he was like, oh, I actually just got out of prayer. What? Okay. What you and the Lord talking about?
I need the Lord.
And that was the first time a guy had said, oh, I just came out of prayer. So my level of attraction to him went so far beyond surface level, but I was like, okay, this man is really after God's heart. And he would even tell me on other occasions, he would say, you know what, can I call you back? But I need to go do my devotion. And so when I thought, wow, you're willing to like really put God first, even before, having a conversation with someone that you really like, that was a huge attraction.
Yeah, no, that's really great. And I love how you guys are showing, like, at one point in time, you did enjoy things of this world, going to the club, talking to people, but when you gave your heart to Christ, your desires changed. And not only did your desires change, but God brought you two together. So when you guys you had those transparent conversations, what did your courting process look like? How long did you date before you were engaged until you got married?
So we met at the Cheesecake Factory, December of 2010. We had our first date, a couple weeks after that. We were engaged by July of 2011, and then we got married in May of 2012. So the total time frame was probably even under a year and a half, 18 months. And what that looked like is, initially, we would go out, on dates here and there, talked on the phone a lot. And we really I think we really learned to love each other first,
Yeah.
Not just on a superficial level, like, oh, I like you because you're cute. And remember, we're early believers. So it's not like we have a whole lot of really wisdom and knowledge from God. God is teaching us throughout this process. But we really love to learn who each other's spiritual identity was.
Yeah.
That's really good.
And when we saw that our identities really mesh together, like, we are going to be, like, we're really getting married, like, for the kingdom's sake. We didn't know we were going to be pastors. We didn't know any of that stuff, but we just knew, I'm really attracted and can see my identity meshing with yours really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how old were you guys when you got married?
23 and 22. Yeah.
22 and 23. So Josh, how important, because you guys are both you grew up in church, but really, like you said, it was shortly before meeting Chrystal, you really gave your life to Christ. Right. But how important is it for the man to be further along spiritually when getting married?
I think it's very important. I would say, and when I even talk about my past relationship, it wasn't just all her. I didn't know who I was. So the reality of it is I couldn't lead nobody where I didn't know I was going. And so, it has to be equally yoked to an extent, But when I met Christ, because I did live a wild life. Take that pastor hat off. I lived a wild life. And it was rooted from brokenness. When I was in high school, I was a freshman and I dated this. This is where it all started, I believe. And it just came back to me. I dated a senior. And, I was all lovey-dovey. I was giving my all, open my heart. And my heart got broken. And from that day forward, I was like, oh, well, girls cheat. So why don't I start cheating? That led me into that whole worldly context of women and relationships. And, so I never really took the relationship serious. Even when I was in that long relationship, I never took it serious. But once I really surrendered my heart to God, I was like, okay, I can't live without him because he gave me identity. He gave me clarity about who I was, that I'm able to lead somebody. I can't lead nobody nowhere if I don't have clarity who I am. Yeah. And so I think when I met God, I was like, okay, I can't be in a relationship, marry anyone who can't reverence Christ because that's all I have to keep me to see them
Yeah.
in this relationship.
And the reason why I ask that is because a lot of millennial women, and even beyond millennial, they are they're women that are pursuing God's heart, that love the Lord, and then they'll meet a man who doesn't seem to be where they're at spiritually. Like, yes, he's falling in love with God, but he may not have as much revelation when it comes to the Bible. So I'm asking, like, do you think that's a deal breaker, or can two people really grow spiritually together? Because a lot of times you do
That's a good
see
question.
majority of women in the church, majority of
Right.
women who are really pursuing God's heart. So sometimes they'll meet a guy who's not quite there, but he's willing to be there.
Right. No, that's a good question. I think even if the woman has more revelation or has more wisdom in God, I don't think it's a deal breaker if a man doesn't have as much. I think the deal breaker is if the man is not committed to learning more, growing more. I don't think when people say, "Oh, you know, he got to be more," and he might not be called to. You might could be called to the stronger influence spiritually, you know, in the realm of influence in the world. But he has to have enough where he can lead the home. He has to have enough where he can hear God, and they can be in agreement in the voice of God for that home. So, you know, I wouldn't make it a deal breaker if the woman is stronger spiritually, but she has to be able to test to see if he really have a commitment, or it's just a commitment for her and he's acting to get her and he's, you know, he's going to church for her and it's not really for him. You know, is the conversation more about her, or is it more about more and more of God so he can know who he is, so he can lead correctly? And I think those are two different dynamics of relationships.
Yeah. And Chrystal, I'll ask you this because a reason why I wanted to interview you guys is I know you all post or after Christ, I should say. So I didn't know either one of you when you were like really living in the world. I know the Chrystal and Josh who own their own businesses and they own their own church. And so to hear this part of your story is very interesting, but it's also very relatable. And Chrystal, the woman that I know you to be now, you're very discerning. You have a strong relationship with the Lord. You hear from God. And I want you to share with the women listening how they can develop that ability now that they're single. Because what I've noticed is that Christian women, they are not discerning when it comes to their relationships. So they'll continue to be in a relationship with a man that is absolutely not God's best. So how can they cultivate that ability to hear from God and discern whether or not they should move forward with someone?
Yeah, that's great. You know, so very, very much like, you know, when I met God and he took me on that 1-year journey. You know, you really have to be committed to Christ for whatever your process looks like. It might be 6 months, it might be 5 years, you know, but whatever that process looks like, to prune all the worldly stuff out. But a lot of it's going to depend on your commitment level. If you're just like half in the world and half doing Christ, okay, that's probably, you know, how relationships are going to come to you. They're going to be flaky. They're not going to be all the way in. And so really the main thing that I would suggest, especially before getting married, in that season of preparation, is have the best relationship with God. Every single day you should be communicating with him. The more time that you spend with him, the more that you're going to hear, because just how you're going to need the Lord's wisdom before marriage to meet that person, you're going to need the same type of wisdom to sustain your marriage, especially when the kids come and when you guys start building different things. You're going to need to hear very clearly from the Lord, especially now, you know, during this pandemic, how crucial it is, and even us, how we're always communicating. Okay, what did God tell you? What's God sharing with you? And so because we're both hearing from God, we can come together and really make wise decisions for our family, because we're both hearing from God. So as women, your ability to discern relationships is really going to be a direct effect of your relationship with God. And I know that for sure. And I wasn't, again, I've come from the world. I was doing the most. I was living my best life, what I thought I was. But as soon as I really made that commitment to God, everything started to change. My friends started to change. My environment, things that I did, things that I wore started to change. Like I really became a different person. But all that started with me just being hungry enough to be like, Lord, I really want what you want from me and not myself. Like clearly I've seen what my desires get me, and that's not ultimately what I want for my entire life. So stay committed to God, devotion with him. He will speak to you. He will speak to everyone, whether that's through the word, through an audible voice, he will, but you got to be committed to him.
Yeah. And I think that's really good what you said. When you're halfway pursuing him, but you want a whole relationship, you're going to be attracting what you are.
Relationships.
So that's really important. And I'm just speaking on cultivating that devotion with the Lord. You did just come out with your new book, your devotional. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, so it is called Becoming the Modern Proverbs 31 Woman, because a lot of us, we've heard about the Proverbs 31 woman. We may have read it, and sometimes she can appear like this superwoman, and we're like, whoa, who is this lady? How do I become her? But we're not making blankets anymore. But the same creativity, the fearfulness of the Lord is really what drives her. And so the devotion is all about how you can take all these characteristics of the Proverbs woman, how to apply them to your life. There's a lot of questions, lots of Q&A, so that you can really be on the right track before marriage or even after marriage, and really being this whole woman.
Yes.
And, for singles out there, it's so important that you enter into a relationship whole, because if you don't, you can really start to fill voids in your life with the relationship, when really God has to fill those voids first. Otherwise, you'll start to idolize the relationship. Your husband will then be in a place where only God is. Like, for example, a lot of people think that, oh, my husband, he's faithful to me because, just because the woman I am. But no, my husband, he's faithful to me because, one, he's faithful to God first.
Right.
So there's no void levels there. Like, I trust him because I know he trusts in God. And because of that, the fruit is he's an amazing husband. He's an awesome dad. He's all these different things. But the root of it is that he trusts God first. Like, at the end of the day, God is life. I'm number one, but God is his life.
Yeah.
So this is just who he is all the time. And then because, yes, I am his wife, so I am his number one, followed by the kids, everything else is going to follow. So the devotional really helps you become that total whole woman holistically, so that when you do enter that relationship, you're coming as a whole person and not someone that's fragmented. Again, I was that fragmented person. I came to God, everything was all over the place, and he literally mended me together so that when we did meet, Josh didn't have to kind of wait, for me to get myself together. I was already together because I knew God was the person that did it first, and not him.
And nor did she have to wait for me to get it together. I think a lot of times, especially in this generation, I feel like women have to wait for men to get it together. And I think what people don't talk about a lot is there's a way you can provoke a man for change, but you don't move without the conviction of change. Those are two different things. I think a lot of women are like, well, do I just let him go? There's a way, but it's not an easy way, because you can allow yourself to move too fast if you're not careful. So there's a way you can provoke him to change, but you can't make him change. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You provoke him to church, provoke him, but you don't move forward in a commitment without a conviction, his conviction towards Christ. So provoke him to change. But until you see that conviction towards Christ, that commitment, until he's committed to Christ, I wouldn't take that next step forward.
Yeah, no, that's phenomenal, because at the end of the day, people have their list of what they desire, and it's different for every person. But at the top of that list should be someone's love and their conviction and reverence for God, because as long as they have that, their fruit of their life will reflect their reverence for the Lord. And I love how you said that, Chrystal. Josh's reverence for the Lord is what sustains him being faithful and what sustains him showing up every day as a husband and a father to the best of his ability, because he's serving God. And I think that's a quality that everyone should be looking for in a spouse. If you're a man watching this, if you're a woman watching this, having someone that truly loves, fears, reverences the Lord is important. So thank you guys so much for this. I don't want to just ask question after question, because I know that you guys have to get back to your work and your schedule, but I really appreciate you sharing your journey. Chrystal, if people do want to get a copy of the Proverbs 31 devotional, where can they get that?
Yes, either it's available on my website, which is crystalbernard.com, or it's on Amazon, and the book title is Becoming the Modern Proverbs 31 Woman.
Awesome. And Josh, you guys have a church together. If people want to just hear some of your messages, where can they find them as well?
They can go to believersconnection.org, and they'll get information there at the page.
Awesome. Yeah. And I just feel like I want to say this as well. So Chrystal and Josh are a really great example of a millennial couple who is truly living and serving God. And I definitely recommend, I've already started Chrystal's book, so I definitely recommend you guys checking that out. And thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time. Have a great day, everybody.